Ayan na. Good morning mga kameta. Kamusta kayo dyan? Ayan, medyo may natutunan tayong style ngayon. Medyo pa-warm up natin pag YouTube at saka TikTok among others. You have to get the machine warmed up first before getting the ball rolling. Pero ito na guys, marami tayong pag-usapan. Maraming ganap pa. Hindi ko pa nga naayos yung buhok ko dito. Biglang, parang napansin ko, pag nag-abroad ako, gumaganyan ng buhok ko. I think it's I think it's the chlorine in the water. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na magandang buhok ko, pero lalong nagiging, ewan ko, mohawk na, hindi ko maintindihan bakit naging ganyan. I think it's really the effect of chlorine. Pag nag-shampoo tayo ganyan, hindi ko alam for some reason mga kameta, nagiging pataas siya ng ganun. The same thing happens sa Tokyo, di ba? Nung 2 weeks ago or so, nung nag-uusap tayo ni Bossing Ronaldo, wala na, sanggoku na yung hair natin. Pero mukhang talaga it's the chlorine and all. So, i-figure out natin yan. Now, habang figure out ko guys, itong chlorine na ito, bakit ganit, gumagano lalo yung buhok natin, umakyat ng ganon. Eto na, mukhang daming ganap sa Pilipinas. Daming ganap sa Pilipinas. Kamusta naman kayo dyan? Kamusta mga Gluta Club natin dyan? Talagang, ang Pilipinas talaga, never ka hindi talaga, let me be nice, okay? Talagang hindi tayo hindi tayo mauubusan ng hindi gluta, hindi tayo mauubusan ng content talaga sa Pilipinas. Medyo malamig-lamig din actually usually guys pag sa mga malalamig na bansa. Pag gumigising tayo ng mga gayan, Jimmy Neutron tuloy tawag hindi ko alam basta mayroon bang gluta sa Jimmy Neutron. Hindi usually kasi pag mga malamig na bansa gusto ko lumabas ng maaga ganun. Pag sunny, akala ko dito tulad ng Tokyo, sunny dire-diretso wala. First day pa lang yatang sunny dito sa Washington DC. Nako, second, third day, gloomy na. Parang feeling New York tuloy ako ngayon. Kaya, actually, nung first day dito, pansin nyo, naging tan pa ako. Interesting, dito pa ako naging tan. First day kasi ang ganda nung sky Sobrang ganda nung sky, ganda ng weather. So talagang go in. Talagang todo patan na lang tayo no. Kasi at least dito guys, yung init ng sun, bearable because honestly, di ba? As a Baguio boy and someone who also grew up in temperate climates and all of that, talaga mas prefer ko ito. At pansin nyo guys, sobrang maaga palang gising na tayo dito. For some reason, hindi ko alam bakit sa Pilipinas. Nahihirapan ako matulog sa Pilipinas. Hindi ko alam kung ito yung init. Ito ay dahil mahal yung electricity. Kakabayad ko lang kanina electricity. Tumawag yung mga tao. Wala na yung internet natin. Wala na yung electricity natin. Kaya magising pa lang ng 5 a.m. Okay, magbayad na tayo. Shucks, ang mahal pa naman ng electricity. Sinek ko pa nga kanina yung transmission fees pa lang ng Meralco. Laki-laki talaga. Ay, nako, good luck sa Pilipinas. Pero yun nga, hindi ko alam kung yung init sa Pilipinas or yung bayad sa electricity, sa aircon, anong nagpapastress sa akin. But for some reason, usually pag nasa mga malalamig na lugar tayo, whether ito yung Greenland, Denmark, last November, whether Tokyo last month, whether Washington DC ngayon, for some reason, maaga tayo natutulog para tayo matanda. Matanda naman tayo ng konti, pero mas para tayo matanda. Mga 9 p.m. pa lang, tulog na ako. Anyway, speaking of gluta, ewan kasi guys, may nakita akong may nakita akong, ay nako, ang pangalan nito, si Tarantadong Kalbo, meron siyang na-post. Hindi kasi, nag-follow ako sa kanya, maganda naman yung mga post niya, tsaka in fairness kay Tarantadong Kalbo, even if may mga, tao dyan, may mga konting back and forth kami nung time ng elections. Kasi, I mean, 19 na ako. Itong guy na to magaling sa caricature and all of that. But to be honest, I'm not sure kung gaano ka-expose itong magaling na artist na to pagdating sa, nuance, high-level political analysis. But anyway, baka mga caricature na naman tayo. Hindi, pero kanina kasi pagising ko pa lang, nakita ko to. Nakita ko to. Sabi ko, ano ba nangyari dito? Sabi ko, sino to? Ano ba nangyari? So, napatingin ako na, tapos nakalagay dito, mga maling Grabe naman, guys. This is mean. Oh, okay. So sabi ko, sino to? Na-curious talaga ako na saan galing itong mga post na ito. And pag-check natin, ito tuloy. May nagpa-drip pala ng glutathione dyan sa Pilipinas lang ba nag-glutathione ng mga tao? Anyway, may nagdi-drip ng glutathione dyan sa Senado. So, ang dami nag-react dyan, including some of the fellow senators and including some of the medical health professionals and experts na who happen to be influencers dito. Unang-una, may reaction from Senator Nancy Binay. Of course, si Nancy Binay, maraming mga substantive interventions pag mga ganitong bagay. Ito yung pinost ng kaibigan natin from TV5, One News, si Sir Jove. Jovi, sabi ni Nancy Binay dito, I'm not sure if the Ethics Committee can extend its sub-jurisdiction dito sa nangyaring insidente since hindi naman membro ng Senado itong si Madam. But we also need to closely look into it because it involves issues of conduct, integrity, and reputation of the institution and matters that concern health and safety. Health and safety. Nakaka-bother lang dahil yung procedure na ginawa sa premises ng Senado ay walang abiso mula sa clinic. And to make it more complicated, yung Gluta drip ay na-declare na mismo ng Department of Health na unsafe, banned ito ng Food and Drug Authority, and it was administered outside sa isang kliniko without the proper medical advice from a licensed health professional. As public figures, sana aware din tayo sa responsibilidad natin sa publiko. We might be promoting something na ipinagbawal at illegal at akala ng mga tao okay lang. Isipin din sana natin ang kasamang kapanagutan, ang pagiging artista na. Ito po yung ito yung sinasabi na accountability, kapanagutan. Okay, may natuto tayo dyan. Lalo na kung senador ang asawa mo. Okay. Ay. Ito talaga tayo mga kamets, no? Kaya pala, yun yung pinost ni Kuya. Now, as always, guys, bago natin pag-usapan ng Senate Slate, pag-usapan natin, guys, etong nag-number 1, nag-numero 1 dito sa ating Senado, dun sa Senate race last 2022 elections. Kasi guys, alam niyo naman, pagdating sa ranking sa Senate, ito ay basyan nito talagang merit, kagalingan, ang mastery of matters of constitution, matters of national interest. Talagang ganito po ang basihan ngayon nowadays, especially since number 1 si yung isa pang artista nung 2010 Senate elections. Ganito po kataas yung level ng of course yung basihan natin pagdating sa election of our senators and all of that. So, nag-respond yung nag-number 1 sa Senate race nung 2022, adding to a expanding list ng mga artista at mga actors na napakagaling once they get into the highest chambers of the nation. Alright, okay. May nag-comment na live selling ba ito? ng Gluta lang yan. Okay. Ito guys. May nag-respond. May sabi ni Sir, medyo pinagtatawanan yung mga nagre-react dyan. Sabi niya, huwag niyo nang pakialaman kung anong ginagawa natin dyan. Ito yung sinabi niya. Nakakatuwa naman na po ang political issue na yan. My goodness, kung may nakita po silang masama sa larawan na yan, paumanhin po. No intention of disrespect. Yung kanyang asawa po daw loves to promote good looks and good health. Natatawa talaga. Pero yun nga po yung concern po. Wala naman tayong problema sa good looks. Kung gwapo naman tayo or maganda naman tayo, okay naman po, walang problema. Sige lang, i-livestream nyo yung pagkaganda at pagkagwapo natin. Ang question kasi dito, at ito yung intervention ng mga medical experts among others. So, hindi lang si Nancy Bina. I think Nancy Bina is also part of the Ethics Committee, no? Or siya ba yung head ng Ethics Committee? But anyway, hindi lang po si Nancy Bina yung nag-comment dito. You also have public health officials, including those who have worked with the Department of Health, those who have advised the government during the pandemic, those who know a thing or two about actually medical sciences, no? Yung mga hindi mahilig sa mga pulveronic na ideas. Ito si Dr. Tony Lechon. Sabi niya, hindi niya naintindihan itong mga issues referring to the good senator and the issues and the far-reaching implications of yung mga social media posts kung saan ayan nagfe-flex ang mga tao ng gluta trip drip or whatever. Sabi ni Tony attorney Dr. Lechon, no disrespect too, but we can call out this post as a threat to health and a low regard for the Senate office for such marketing promotion. Ah, so okay, so marketing daw 'yon. May ay, Diyos ko, ang Pilipinas talaga. Mahirap talaga mahalin ng Pilipinas, guys. Mahal na mahal natin ng Pilipinas, pero minsan pinapahirapan tayo. Kaya ang feeling ko if there's a national emotion that describes the feeling of any Filipino who cares about our country, it's hugot. Ang daming hugot. Mahugot talaga ang pagmamahal sa Pilipinas. Ano ba, ito lahat ng ginagawa mo, lahat na lang. And pero actually guys, in fairness naman, yun naman me. I always put things into historical perspective. Actually, kahapon nga nandun ako sa Smithsonian Museum. Ang daming beses na pumunta ako dito sa DC throughout the years. Pero ngayon lang ako nagbigay ng panahon talaga na bumisita guys dito sa bumisita dito sa Smithsonian, yung mga nature, no? So pumunta, chinek ko talaga yung panahon ng dinosaurs, panahon ng mga unang tao, panahon ng mga panahon ng mga Homo sapiens, mga unang Homo sapiens. At some point there were like 4 or 5 of us na different species coexisting, and then we had this fantastic conversation with some folks dyan sa Smithsonian museum. Ang dami para lang magkakaroon tayo ng big picture understanding. But at the same time, when thinking about big picture understanding, tinignan ko rin dito ang politika dito sa Washington DC. My goodness, ang dami nila mga antics na tao dito sa politika nila. No, I mean, ano yung pangalan niya? Si Marjorie Green ba yan? Ano pa? Yung mga QAnon people na nandito sa Kongreso, nandyan lang. So, in a way, I mean, as much as minsan na-disappoint ka sa Pilipinas and all of that, pag iniisip mo rin yan, anong katangan ng sinasabi na itong mga to? Block natin. Ayan. Oh, huwag kayo mag-troll sa akin. Block ko kayo kaagad. Umayos kayo. Ayan, go Trump na ulit yung iba dyan. Then I was thinking ganito. Let's not forget, ang sistema ng demokrasya na meron tayo sa Pilipinas, ang sistema ng gobyerno na meron tayo sa Pilipinas, lahat yan guys ay base sa Amerika. Hindi sa Espanya, hindi sa Inglaterra, hindi sa Pransya, base ito sa sistema dito sa Amerika. And I was wondering, kung ang Amerika nga ngayon ay ganitong situation, may mga QAnon people ay nasa Kongreso, andyan lang, over the horizon lang. Kung etong bansa ay most likely magiging ang magiging race dito ay back to the future na 2022 na malaking chance, increasingly at least 50% chance na manalo si Trump bilang next president. Mapapaisip ka talaga na baka naman yung nangyari sa Pilipinas ay hindi ganun ka nakakapagtataka dahil kung yung bansa mismo na nagbigay sa atin ng mga sistema ng demokrasya natin and mga others, kung yung bansa na yan ay ganito ang situation nila, kahit isa sila sa pinakamayayaman na bansa. So, a per capita income of an American is around $60,000+ a year compared to just over $4,000 in the Philippines. So more than 10 times na mas mayaman ang isang average American kumpara sa isang average na Filipino, no? At ang Amerika po ay more than 200 years of experience of democracy, although of course many would argue that siguro until 1960s questionable yung claim to democracy because of the situation ng mga African American folks in the deep south here sa United States. But given all of that, inisip ko nga, kung Amerika nga, na ganyan kayaman na bansa, na pinakamalakas na bansa sa mundo, I mean, you look at the military power in this country, it's incredible. Kung tinignan mo yung kanilang technological power, venture capital, napakalakas na bansa. Kung itong bansa na ito na pinakamalakas na bansa sa buong kasaysayan ng mundo, ito mga pinakamalakas na empire sa buong kasaysayan ng mundo, an empire that doesn't even want to call itself an empire, right? The hidden empire, as some would call it. Ay may ganitong situation na pwede bumalik si Trump bilang presidente dito kasi I mean I'll be honest, syempre nagkaroon tayo ng mga speeches and conversations kahapon. Ipopost ko by the way yung videos natin and talks natin dito kahapon, including dito sa Atlantic Council among others. Kung itong bansa na ito, I mean we're having like really serious conversation right now about possible return of Trump dito. Now, sabi ko naman, yung mga anti-China, right, ay tuwan-tuwa dun sa posibilidad na babalik si Trump. Yung mga pro-Russia or pro-Putin, tuwan-tuwa na makabalik si Trump. Yung mga galit sa mga woke, galit sa mga nakakairita ng mga bagay-bagay dyan, di ba? Tuwan-tuwa na babalik si Trump. Pero guys, let's just be honest. Let's be honest. Let's be honest, okay? Ang laki ng I mean, it tells a lot about your state of democracy kung isang tao na in spite of everything, may good shot na probably more than 50% chance na maging presidente ng bansa na ito. Now, none of this says na hindi natin tinitignan yung mga kakulangan, kaewanan na nangyari sa mga ibang presidente or administration. I'm just saying, I really appreciated yung walk down there dun sa whole museums, the Capitol Hill and among others kasi it allowed me to put things into perspective na kung ang Amerika nga na napakatagal ang kanilang karanasan dito sa ganitong sistema ng demokrasya, quote-unquote demokrasya, yung bansa na ganong kayaman, ganong ka-develop, ganong ka-powerful, kung sila, ganito yung kalagayan ng kanilang politika, 'di ba? Kung meron sila mga Marjorie Green, QAnon type, mga congresswoman and politicians, then siguro naman hindi dapat tayo masyadong nagtataka ng bansa na katulad ng Pilipinas ay nandito sa kalagayan na ganito. Because I always say guys, no, isa sa mga dahilan na ang demokrasya sa Pilipinas ay hindi effective ay dahil yung estado natin ay napakahina. Pag titignan mo ang Pilipinas guys, yung ating estado halos hindi niya makontrol yung mga dynasties, hindi niya makontrol yung mga ginagawa ng mga oligarchs. If anything sa Pilipinas, let's be honest, over the past 100 years, the story of the Philippine state is how it's constantly captured by political dynasties and by oligarchs and the combination of two. Minsan yung presidente gumagawa ng sariling oligarchs, si Duterte may sarili, si ganito, si Marcos may sarili, si Marcos Sr., ganun. So, we never had a strong state, a kind of a centralized force that developed the country and push the elite and the best and brightest of the country to serve the national interest. Yun po yung parating natin weakness sa Pilipinas. And there's no surprise because actually, interestingly, the America that conquered the Philippines in the late 19th century and colonized the Philippines throughout the early 20th century, ito po yung Amerika kung saan napakahina din kanilang estado. Ito yung federalized America kung saan napakalakas yung mga state level states, pero yung kanilang federal governments would not be strengthened until si FDR ay pumasok. So you're looking at way later on pa after the Philippines was colonized by America. So yung sistema ng politika na meron tayo sa Pilipinas, guys, ito ay base doon sa very libertarian weak state model na meron ng America, na very populist actually by the way also, meron ng America in the late 19th century and early 20th century before yung mga reforms ni FDR which transformed the American state, the federal American state into a solid state. So that's very important. That's very very important guys. Na you have a proper diagnostics of bakit ganyan ang Pilipinas. So siguro kung America ay hindi nagkaroon ng FDR era, hindi nagkaroon ng strengthening of federal government era, kung hindi nagkaroon ng modernization of state institution era, there would have been a large, richer, pero kasing sabog version ng Pilipinas. But nevertheless, despite everything, mahabang usapan, you can talk about neoliberalism, impact of, deregulation, privatization, all of that in the 70s. But, basta para sa akin lang, every time na nakikita ko yung mga kaewanan na nangyari sa kongreso dito na hindi ka nakalayo, it just makes me realize na siguro minsan wag na mahirap umasa talaga sa Pilipinas. But having said that, guys, ang difference ng Amerika sa Pilipinas, I would say, among many other things, is that they always had a very strong opposition. Very, very strong opposition. So whether um, ang mga Democrats in power, usually the Republicans do very good in the midterm elections. And kung mga Republicans naman in power, pumabawi yung mga Democrats. And I know, medyo mix yung mga nanonood sa atin. Marami sa mga nanonood sa atin, baka mas Republican, mas Trumpian pa. But let's just say for the sake of argument, na ang mga Democrats ay generally, let's say, party of the working class, of immigrants, of minorities, etc. Kung titignan mo sila, napaka-organized sila, no? And constantly they mobilize and organize on the ground, and they make sure na meron silang laban, na meron silang pwedeng pangbawi, no, just in case if yung kabilang side is overly powerful or doing something wrong. Now, having said that, kaya nga guys, every time na pinag-usapan natin ang Pilipinas, ang sinasabi ko dito guys is hopeless case tayo unless XYZ. And kasama dun sa XYZ na yan, ay dapat constantly organize and mobilize opposition. And an opposition that learns its lessons, reflects on its mistakes, reflects on its shortcomings, is open to constructive criticism, it's open to dialogue, it's open to build bridges, to build alliances, build coalitions beyond some, you know, alam mo na, core base, diba? And most importantly, mahalaga na hindi mag-give up, right? Hindi lang in terms of politicians not giving up, but also opposition leaders inspiring itong mga kababayan natin not to give up on the country, to invest. Because ang demokrasya po is a constant process. It's a constant process of mobilization, it's a constant process of contestation, it's a constant process of fighting for the better country. Kaya dito, for instance, sa Amerika, di ba, towards a more perfect union, di ba? So there's always an admission na it's always a work in progress. Dapat ganun din guys ang tingin natin sa ating demokrasya sa Pilipinas. Natanggapin natin na as imperfect as it is, it can be improved. But the improvement doesn't fall from the sky. The improvement is something you have to fight for constantly through year after year after year. At hindi pwede sa election period lang ay naging sobrang active tayo. At tung tapos na elections, goodbye na tayo, mag-travel vlog na lang tayo, etc. Hindi pwedeng ganon. Right? Hindi pwedeng ganon. Dapat constantly involved ka. And constantly may discussion. Saan tayo nagkamali? Saan tayo nagkakulang? Anong dapat gawin natin? I'll tell you. Baka may managsabi na ito si Darren, pinagsasabi niya. Just to be clear about it. Isang dahilan, guys, na nagsimula tayo mag-vlog and all of that. Right? Pretty regularly. No? Is precisely because na-recognize po natin. Ay, hindi po glutathione yan. Baka may nakita kayo dyan. Hindi ang glutathione. Ano yan? Mga vitamins ko yan. Mamaya magagawin na. Si Darren, nag-gluta. Natan na nga ako dito eh. Sobrang natan tayo. Hindi ako nag-glutathione, mga ganun. No, anyway. Balikan natin to guys. Nasaan tayo? No. Nakaka-frustrate kasi, because people, instead of taking constructive criticism, ipa-personal nila yan. But just to be clear about this, sabi ko on my part, etong ginagawa natin ngayon, na eto, kagising lang, may pimples dito, pangit na yung tsura natin minsan, more than minsan, di ba? Yung buhok natin all over the place. Okay lang yan, para sa akin, I'm willing to be exposed like that. Because, ito naman damit, madali lang yan. Nandun lang yun, susuotin ko lang. Siyempre, sabi niyo, si Darian, pumaporma naman ganun. Kasi andun lang naman, hindi suotin ko kagad. Pero, tingnan nyo, wala tayong time na ayusin sarili natin and all that. Kasi, immediately, I have a meeting right after this, diba? Early morning pa lang dito. Habol-habol sa trabaho at saka ibang engagements. Guys, on my part, isang dahilan na nagsimula tayo ng ganito, ng live sa Facebook, live sa TikTok, live sa YouTube, among others, exposing ourselves, looking like a crazy, exposing ourselves to criticisms, to criticism and all of that. It's because naintindihan ko na hindi pwede na umasa tayo sa mga old means or traditional means of traditional, ayan naman nagtutroll. Yan nga yung problema ko eh. Siyempre, ito-troll na naman tayo. I-expose tayo guys sa, nasa ba tayo? Na-distract ako dito. Wait lang guys, wag kayong magulo, okay? Maganda tong sasabihin ko sana eh. No, no, no. Sabi ko nga, on my part, isang dahilan na ginagawa natin ito is because na-recognize ko na yung mga traditional means of opinion shaping and opinion making just doesn't work. Alright? Kaya nga sobrang agree ako kay um, my former colleague sa Inquirer na si John Neri na kung si Rizal ay buhay sa panahon natin guys, maging vlogger talaga yan. Hindi dahil vlogging is the best way necessarily to get the message across, but it is best way in a sense that yung depth and substance na gusto mo sabihin, hindi mo malabas completely sa vlogs yan. Kaya I still encourage you guys to please, if you have time, read some of our stuff, read some of our books para mag-gets nyo yung context and references and etc. But sometimes it's really the only way to get the message out. Um, because aminin natin, marami sa ating kababayan, and perhaps that's the difference naman with the US because at least dito, as sa ibang bansa, mahilig magbasa ang tao. I know it. I mean, I had many book talks here. I had many conversations here. Base sa mga libro natin. Last time I checked, I practically had zero book talks in the Philippines. Like yung book natin sa about Duterte, I had uh, I had book talk about it in Stanford. I had book talk about it here in Washington D.C. I had book talk about it in Europe. I had book talk about it in Thailand. I had book talk about it all around the world. Pero hindi sa Pilipinas. I mean, I'm not saying there's no book talk in the Philippines, but to be honest, maraming beses napansin natin. Umayos na kayo, huwag kayong mag-troll, i-block ko kayo. Maraming beses napansin natin. Guys naman, behave kayo, okay? This is a serious conversation and you're just trying papansin lang kayo dyan, umayos kayo dyan. Buti nga yung mga sa TikTok, behave ngayon. Umayos kayo, mag-block ko kayo. Para kayo mga magulong bata sa classroom. May sasabihin ng teacher nyo, okay, makinig kayo. And then, going back to this, guys. Yun nga eh. I'll just be very honest, guys. Walang masyadong nagbabasa ng libro, walang masyadong nagbabasa ng mga articles. So, at hindi gets ng tao, napakahirap magsulat ng matinong column or essay article. Napakahirap, guys. Napakahirap. At sobrang mas mahirap magsulat ng mga libro. And, again, I not to be mayabang about it, writing columns or essays sa isang reputable publications is not easy at all. And to do 100 of that, 1,000 of that, thousands of that, it's not easy at all. Writing a book, not just for any publisher, in my case, for Palgrave Macmillan, for instance, or some of the international academic publishers, hindi po madali yan. It takes a lot of your energy, right? A lot of my, energies in my 20s and early 30s went into writing these books, guys. All right? Yung eye bags na nakikita nyo and all of that. A lot of that is because overnight, I mean, there were times na magsusulat ka until 4, 5 a.m. And then sa sobrang stress mo, hindi ka makatulog. So kakain ka pa sa morning, which is not a healthy way of doing it. So kaya nga, I became conscious about my diet. Naging intermittent na lang ako. I only eat twice a day. Kahapon nga, I just had lunch and breakfast. That's it. I didn't eat the whole day. Nag-late lunch lang ako. Nag-breakfast ako ng 9 a.m. Just some cheese and bagels and all of that. And then I did my pasta and all of that at 2 p.m. Then, sinasabi ko yan kasi usapan glutathione. And hindi na ako kumain until now. Hindi pa ako kumain. Hindi pa ako nag-breakfast. So, my point is, you're sacrificing a lot. You're investing a lot to write these things and all of that. So, minsan nakakalungkot when you realize, again, I'm I feel extremely privileged na marami sa inyo get to watch our vlogs and get to, hear about what we do or nakita niyo sa media, international media. I understand that. But I hope people understand. Napakahirap magsulat. Alright? It's emotionally difficult. Especially kung yung mga topics mo is not the happiest topics. Hindi ka naman nag-vlog about the latest, I don't know, Gucci or Dolce Gabbana, whatever. Hindi ka naman nag-vlog about, I mean, maybe one day I'll do that, but you're not blogging about the latest, I don't know, BMW or something like that. No, you're blogging about some very difficult conversations. So yung isa sa columns ko recently was about Navalny, right? And I start with the quote from Senator Trillanes. And then I talk about Ninoy. I mean, it's difficult. These are emotional wrenching topics. You talk about Bukele, you talk about Duterte, and this doesn't even involve some of my art articles around the world when I write about US, China competition, peace and war questions, which are very stressful topics. And imagine how much research you have to put into it to make sure that it's constantly updated, it's unique, it can stand the scrutiny of time, scrutiny of expertise. Kahapon nga, after talk natin dito sa Atlantic Council, you had academics, ex-ambassadors coming to me and saying, Richard, it's lovely to finally meet you in person. I've been quoting your works. I've been writing stuff based on your works. Nakakataba ng puso yan. But at the same time, you realize back home, I'm not sure how many people really pay attention, to this kind of methodical, conscientious writing based on research and evidence and stuff like that. So that means, to be honest, to get the message out is really vlogs, right? And as much as vlogs is concerned, timing din yan, swertehan din yan, ma-viral ka ba, tamang oras pa ba, feeling ko, hindi yata tamang oras na kasi may kasabay yata tayo mga ibang vloggers na ganitong oras din sila nag-ano. So, you're competing pa with other people. And then minsan, dito sa social media, labanan na ito ng clickbait. Pa megaphone, 'di ba? Palakihan ng ano, 'di ba? Ng caps lock ng titles, yung mga ganun, pabuljakan, it's really hard. It's really hard kasi ano 'yun eh. Um Parang nilagay ka sa palengke, and regardless of kung sino magaling hindi, magingay kayo, sinong pinakamaingay, yun na lang pansinin nyo, di ba? So, but, as I said, if this is the way, then this is the way, and you have to directly deal with it accordingly. Yesterday while I was walking around, I do this a lot, So I'm walking around, I'm going, I'm seeing the U.S. Congress here, I'm seeing the museums here, I'm seeing all the symbols of democracy here. Pero ang pinapakinggan ko sa podcast is Russia, is Navalny, right? And how, in the case of Navalny, for instance, nag-aral siya ng 1 year, nag-fellowship siya sa Yale Law School, and he learned a lot about American democracy and all of that. So I was listening to all of these things from Turgenev to Dostoevsky to Tolstoy to Navalny, all the struggles that Russian intelligentsia and liberals and moderns had to go through the past 200 years or so, right? And I was wondering, kumpara naman sa mga ganitong bansa na yan, our situation in the Philippines is not as bad. It's not as bad. But at the same time, we have to understand we're not gonna have a better democracy until we fight for it, right? And until we also accept, and this is one thing I always appreciate about Navalny. God bless his soul. His argument was, you we cannot afford to be hopeless, right? Because the moment you give up hope, you give up that chance, that little chance you have for a better country, for a better future. Now, I'm not saying na wag kayo mag-abroad. Yung mga iba sa inyo gusto mag-migrate, etc. Alam ko yan. Ang dami kong kaibigan na based abroad. But alam ko, deep inside, they still care about the Philippines. And some of them, not you don't even have to go deep inside. You know that they care about the Philippines because they're constantly, in fact, isa sa mga reasons na pansin ko, ang taas ng rankings natin, yung podcast natin. Kanina, na-check ko, nasa top political podcast tayo, even sa Italy. Pumasok na tayo sa Italy. So, sa Singapore, sa Italy, so all around the world, nagta-top 50, 100 tayo dun sa mga political news podcast nila because of, I'm sure, hindi naman ako nagfi-feeling. I think ito yung mga kababayan natin na nasa ibang bansa, sa Italia, sa Inglaterra, sa Pransya, sa Australia, sa iba't ibang bansa at nakikinig sila sa atin. Nakikinig sila sa sinasabi natin, nakikinig sila sa mga guests natin, nakikinig sila dun sa mga issue na pinag-usapan natin. They're trying to keep in touch with the country because they care about their country. They love their country. They may have another citizenship, they may have moved on, become European, American, whatever, but at the end of the day, Pilipino pa rin sila. So, ang sinasabi ko guys dito is that you have to be clear na you won't get the change that we deserve as Filipinos. Kaya, inis ako dito sa statement na, sorry medyo all over the place tayo ngayon, but I just want to have a real talk here, honest conversation here. Kasi, feeling ko a lot of times I'm holding back because, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I felt I already said too many things. I don't want to come off wrong, but, I mean, when you have long walks, you have 10, 20 kilometers of walks, and you're reflecting on history, you're listening to Herzen and Turgenev and all of that, of Navalny and what's happening in the US and all of that, you're gonna say, let's be honest about this, Buongiorno. Ay, mga Italiano tayo, mga kaibigan nandito, mga kababayan natin from Italy. Buongiorno, buongiorno. Buonasera, buonasera. Um, no, I mean, the mindset matters, guys. The mindset really matters. If the mindset is, let's just hope that some matinong politician wins every 3, 4 years and then maybe things will be better, wala talagang mangyari sa bansa natin. Good luck sa atin. Hopeless case talaga tayo in that case. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment, right? But if your mindset is, it's a marathon, right? It's alam mo yung mga marathon runners, 'di ba? It's about gradual improvements, 'di ba? It's about doing that marathon run, and then every month or every run you're 0.1 second better. You're 1 second better. You're 2 seconds better. Sometimes 1 minute or several minutes better after several runs, 'di ba? Dapat ganun ang pag-intindi natin sa politika. This is like a marathon. This is a constant struggle to push the Philippines in the right direction. And there are gonna be disappointments. Just like for marathon runners, sometimes there's gonna be time that suddenly mas maganda yung time nila pala dati. Bumaba pa yung ranking nila. Then you fight back and you push it forward. Dapat ganito yung mindset. Once you embrace the nature of political change as a marathon, then, in fact, I would say this, it's not only marathon, it's a Olympics. Because pagdating sa politika, you have to know many things. You have to be good in communications, timing, projection, policy, everything. So it's like Olympics. Hindi lang pwede magaling na tumakbo ka. Dapat magaling ka sa in many things. So going back to this, guys, we have to have that kind of right mindset. And that, ladies and gentlemen, sets up the premise for our conversation today. Okay, so after 1 hour, 40 minutes by the way, after 40 minutes, ito na, pag-usapan na natin ito. So everything I've been saying over the past 40 minutes is to set the tone for the conversation we're gonna have today. Because eto na, finally, nag-announce na ang opposition na magfa-file na sila, magfi-field na sila ng at least 3 candidates for the Senate. And palakpakan. Why? Because for me, first of all, this goes along the line of what I said. Mahalaga na opposition is part of this conversation. Hindi pwede popcorn lang tayo. Hindi pwede na just, waiting to get lucky. Ano yung music na yung waiting to get lucky? Hindi pwedeng ganyan. Right? You have to fight for it. No matter the odds. Right? No, but speaking of odds, actually the odds are not too bad. I mean, so ang announcement ngayon is tatakbo for Senate at least 3 individuals associated with the opposition, right? 3 very accomplished individuals, 3 very smart individuals. Now, having said that, I may have some agreements or disagreement with one of them or two of them or whatever. Now, as you may have noticed, you may remember, guys, actually na-interview natin si attorney si Dean Jokno, and his son. Of course, we interviewed him dun sa movie niya Gomburza, but si Dean Jokno, we had a conversation with him during the elections of 2022, and he is a person that I think really really embodies, right, uh, the best values that the Filipino can have, right? Yung kanyang conviction sa buhay, yung kanyang talino, yung kanyang humility. I'll tell you what, I know that humility is not my number one virtue, or at least, shallow understanding of humility. Because if you're really, really humble, you're willing to expose yourself to criticism often. But anyway, let's not get there. Um, but ito si Attorney Joke na talagang grabe. He's really genuinely a humble person. And you could see he's there to learn, he's there to serve, he's there to help. Right? Malaking bagay na sa like him. So, despite the fact na twice natalo siya, right? He didn't do too bad. I think especially sa first one, considering from what level he was starting. I think this is something brave. Ayan na yung mga trolls natin dyan. Ayan, mga, alam mo guys, yung mga pinagtatawan niyo yung opposition, tingnan natin sa 2028. Mukhang hindi rin mananalo yung kandidato niyo. So, huwag kayo masyadong mayabang dyan. Alright. And then of course you have Bam Aquino, who has a record of beating Marcos Jr. in 2016, and then in 2022, even if super late sila nagsimula, at least sila ni nag-first runner-up, right? And she was able to get 27% of the votes against the Uni team. As I said, had Uni team not been unified, meaning if Duterte's and Marcos, kung hindi sila sumama, who knows, maybe the race would have been completely different. Maybe it would have been completely competitive. O ibang usapan na yung mga SD cards and all. Okay, I'm not gonna go into that. But just on this issue, no, just on this issue, if you look at Bam Aquino, he's someone who's not only a former senator, but is someone who actually has an experience of running very high profile campaigns, very high profile campaigns. Now, personally, I had no interaction with Bam Aquino like ever, right? Now, baka naman, baka nainis sila sa akin for everything I said and all of that during the... But, in fairness, from people that I know, from academics that I respect, na nakausap nila si Bam Aquino, I've been reassured by them that actually Bam Aquino is someone who's very perceptive, he's very reflexive, and who's someone who's fundamentally willing to learn from the past, both good and bad, and move forward in the best way possible. And he looks like someone who has the kind of mental resilience and strength, right, to deal with the difficulties that opposition candidates face in a country like the Philippines, right? Not to mention, ang dami niyang mga accomplishment as a human being, right? As a social entrepreneur, bilang estudyante, napakagaling na estudyante ito sa Ateneo, a youth leader, dami niyang awards all around the world. And then, of course, you have the former opposition leader and former vice presidential candidate, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, who has there's no need for even for introduction when it comes to him. Interestingly, actually, I don't the only time that I got a chance to meet him properly was nung sa Taiwan ako last September. And actually, I was surprised. I mean, in fairness, he's suabe siya. Actually, matangkat pala siya, no? And I mean, relatively matangkat siya. And then, yeah, I mean, I didn't see any swagger. I saw a lot of dignity. And I think he didn't say much, but from what my understanding is that he had some deep thinking and soul searching and etc. after the elections in 2022. Now, if you look at the surveys na pinag-usapan natin, this is surveys from 2 to 3 months ago. Actually, at least two out of these three candidates have a very good chance of being very competitive. No, I'm not saying that mahirap talaga tong Senate race ngayon kasi ang daming re-electionist, ang daming mga pro-tatay, ang dami rin maging bet ng gobyerno, administrasyon. So, the spot is sobrang tight tong competition na to. But in fairness, based on some of the numbers we saw, some of them, especially Bam Aquino, is pretty competitive, right? Pretty competitive. So, for me, another reason to be relatively cautiously optimistic about the trajectory. When I say trajectory, I'm saying that we're not sure kung mananalo, but to be relatively cautiously optimistic about the trajectory at least, is that you have right now in the Liberal Party the person of Leila de Lima. And interestingly, Leila de Lima is now the spokesperson of the Liberal Party, and she's the one who made the announcement. At base sa kanya announcement, they intend to be opposition candidates. Senator Kiko is surely an LP candidate. Senator Bam and Diljen are not officially LP members, so this is a joint ticket of the opposition, not LP. And for me, De Lima being there, right, says something, right? Because pagdating sa katapangan, pagdating sa political conviction and all of that, I mean, pagdating sa trials, I mean, if you look at it, the things that Leila de Lima had to go through, my goodness, no? And yet coming out strong and coming out fighting for the opposition, I mean, that's quite something, right? And I think just her presence there will give tremendous amount of boost and faith to the opposition candidates in what is looking like going to be a very difficult race next year, to be honest about it. So just to give you a little background, so si Pangilinan was actually senator from 2001 to 2013 and 2016 to 2022. So already has 2 terms, 12 years experience, dozen years. Si Bam Aquino was senator from 2013 to 2019. He lost in 2019 he was at 14th place, so just outside the magic 12. Si Joke na naman, he placed 21st and actually improved it. Sorry, he improved from 21st in 2019 to 19th in 2022. So the hope is to keep on pushing it. Although, again, to be realistic about it, I think the race is much more difficult this time. Again, I'm hearing people talking about Vico Soto and all of that. My understanding is Vico Soto wants to finish his 3 terms as mayor of Pasig, and then once he's done with that, he will still not be 40, right? So it's too early to talk about him as a presidential candidate, but let's see where things go from there. Yeah, masyadong maaga yung kay Vico Soto, right? And I hope we don't fall into this tendency again of pinning all our hopes on one individual or two because you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. All right? May sariling pag-iisip ang tao na yan, may sarili siyang mga plano sa buhay, hayaan lang natin siya, okay? And let's just hope that Vico Soto is just one out of many, many other great LGU leaders. Kaya nga na-interview natin si among others, for instance, si Mayor Benji Magalang, who I think would be an interesting, not opposition, not administration, very center, but good center. I think Benji Magalang is someone also very interesting to keep in mind in the coming years as conversations about presidential and vice presidential candidates come into the picture. I think as a senator also he has a pretty good chance if he wants to go for that. So the idea here, as I said, mga kameta, is you have to at least fight the good fight. There might be some chance there because I think one or two of them at least is competitive. Jokno was on an upward trajectory. Bam, I think, can do well if they learn their lessons. Again, it's gonna be super hard to get in. But as I said, kailangan na may opposition dyan. Kasi so far, ang nandyan lang na tunay na opposition ay si Riza Ontiveros. Alright? Si Riza Ontiveros lang talaga yung opposition dyan sa Senado. Alright? So, hindi naman pwede na mag-lone dissenting voice forever na lang si Riza until 2028. Right. And then, of course, we can talk about Risa as a potentially also a presidential candidate, vice presidential candidate. But, speaking of all of these things, guys, sorry, I'm just checking itong meeting ko. All right. They need to fight for this because they have to have a seat at the table. Hindi pwede na umasa ka lang na bigyan ka ng position ni BBM, which has its own questions. Hindi pwede umasa na informal ka lang. Hindi pwede umasa na pasikreto ka. Hindi pwede ganito eh. Right? You have to fight for the positions yourself. Iba talaga kung may position ka dyan sa Senado. Iba talaga kung senador ka mismo. Or iba talaga kung you came very close to winning that position. Right? So, let's see where these things go. But what I noticed over the past few days is rise of Riza Duterte. Riza Duterte. Ayan, gutom na ako. Riza Ontiveros. Kasi iniisip ko na naman si Riza. Hindi pa rin, naiisip ko pa rin si Sara Duterte, yung kanyang speech. Parang bite-bite ni Sara Duterte, no? Sa bite-bite niya sa mga speech niya. Ganyan. Okay, alright. Tuloy naging Riza Duterte. Hindi, yung rise ni Riza Ontiveros as really itong matapang na palaban na senator. Speaking of Kiboloy, of course. I don't want to talk about Kiboloy anymore kasi nakadalawang vlogs na tayo back-to-back kay Kiboloy. Baka lalong, huwag na natin i-overdo yan. Yeah, gutom na ako. Actually, you can see na wala na ako energy. Last meal I had was more than 24 hours ago. Okay. Yeah. Wala na, sabaw na. Wala na energy. No, I need to eat na. Okay. So let's see. I mean, over the past few days, you're seeing rise of Riza, and at the same time, you're seeing all of these announcements about the opposition will go for gold or at least silver in the Senate. And I think we should wait for also other announcements. I think there would be also very interesting announcements soon. Probably also the more other progressive side will make announcements. Maybe there'll be conversations about a full slate. There'll be conversation about cross intersectional slates. There'll be conversations about coalition building among others. And maybe, guys, there'll be conversations about yung favorite ni Margarita. Ay, hindi pala si Margarita. Si Donya pala. Gusto ni Donya. Harry Roque daw. Ito si Donya kanina pa nagtitroll yan. Gusto niya si Harry Roque daw tumakbo for Senate. Isa pa, dagdagan natin para interesting ang conversation. On that note, thank you very much mga kameta. I hope you have a lovely day. Artistahin si Sarah, sabi niya. Okay. I hope you guys have a lovely day and I hope to catch up with you guys soon. Tomorrow, morning your time, kasi evening my time later on. We're hoping to also have a proper conversation on West Philippine Sea, AFP modernization, F-16 fighters, warships, etc., with someone who really knows this stuff. So Admiral Ong, hopefully with Admiral Ong, we are going to have a detailed conversation. We had some conversation with Senator Trillanes on that, but we want to have really an operational, technical discussion also about AFP modernization that I hope you guys will appreciate. Speaking of, yes, Margarita, speaking of Senator Trillanes, I was just messaging folks the other day na we hope to have also more of Senator Trillanes in our conversation soon. Siguro gawa rin tayo ng version natin ng R&R with Sunny naman, RNS, 'di ba? SNR. Okay, okay yun ah. SNR. 'Di ba? Sunny and Richard, Sunny and Ricardo. All right, so let maybe SNR. Let's do an SNR with Sunny, or we can do RRS, right? Ronaldo, Ricardo, Sonny, right? Pero SNR, parang ganda ng SNR, no? SNR. Sonny and Ricardo, all right? Hopefully we'll have more of that. As I said, I'm not into, my podcasts are not really interviews. They're more conversations. So I'd rather have them as my de facto co-hosts than my guests. So yeah, so hopefully we'll not have Trinas only as a guest. We'll also hopefully have him as a semi co-host as we pick up this conversation and all. Because I think in terms of understanding of where the opposition should go, the mistakes, the shortcomings, the strengths, the green shoots, I think medyo malaki yung overlap natin with Sunny. So let's look at SNR, another prospect. And speaking of R&R, hopefully we can also arrange with that. Kasi si Ronald kasi crush ng bayan ngayon. Sobrang Ronald Aldens Liamas. Di ko na siya ma-reach eh. Mahirap na siyang Isang araw nga nag-message ako kay Sir Ronald. Sabi ko, Ronald Aldens Richards, pwede ka ba sa ganitong araw? Sabi niya, sige, tanungin ko yung yung secretary ko. Ganyan ang level niya, di ba? Inano na tayo eh. Um, Nasa linya na tayo ngayon, 'di ba? Maraming na siya, regular na siya ngayon sa iba't ibang lugar. Kaya sabi ko magpasalamat siya sa amin ni Christian, 'di ba? Nakita yung kagalingan niya kasi sobrang co-host and regular na siya sa amin dalawa. So, kitang-kita ng mga ibang media friends natin gaano kagaling ito si Ronaldo. So, if we have R&R, hopefully ang target natin next is SNR naman with Sir Sonny, because I think it's a good dynamic. I like my conversation with Sonny. Kasi pansin niyo guys, iba yung dynamics, di ba? Pagkasama ko si Ronald, ayan, nagpapatawa kami pero seryoso at the same time. With Sir Sonny, buot kami, medyo so gusto ko rin yung dynamic na yan. Alright? So it's nice, it's good. And then of course, pagkasama naman natin si Leloy, medyo dynamic natin, mga ilustrado, diba? Mga ganyan. And then, of course, with si Mark Gamboa, iba na naman yung dynamic natin dyan. Alright, on that note, thank you very much mga kamenta. Parang pumapayat tayo dito kasi di tayo kumakain ng masasarap na food. Na-miss ko tuloy mga pagkain natin sa Asia. Ang dali pala pumayat sa, pag hindi ka na sa Asia and all of that. Oo. Hindi, I mean, good naman ang all dito. I'm just saying, pag nasa Pilipinas ako, sa Asia ako or something like that, taas ng appetite ko, di ba? Ang lakas ng appetite ko kumain. Lalo yung, yung rice natin and all of that. Dito wala eh, kaya madali pumayat. Okay. Anyway, on that note, i-push lang natin yung SNR na yan, okay? Ayan, magpa-public clamor na tayo. I think there should be a public clamor, okay? No, may message ko sila bossing. Sabi ko mamaya, yes, SNR natin. Oh, walang only rice dito, guys. May only bread. Kaya nag-Italian, no? Libre daw kahapon, tuloy na-guilty ako. Ang dami kong lakad. La quacha, la mierda. Alright, speaking of la quacha, la mierda, guys, yes to sports, no to gluta. Alright, wag niyo sobrahan yung gluta na yan. Kasi guys, ang kagandahan ay hindi lang sa loob. Ang kagandahan rin ay nandun sa ating, our Asian exotic, skin tone. Alright? So, wag natin palitan yan. Okay? Señores, señora, muchas gracias. Talk to you soon. Alright? God bless. Talk to you soon. Ayan, wala talagang energy. Talagang gutom na tayo. Pero go pa rin. Okay. Ang haba ng ang daldal natin. I hope na-appreciate nyo. All over the place. But I hope yun. Ito yung gluta talaga eh. Mag-update pa ako sa gluta na yan. Alright? Babalikan ko kaya. Salamat.